What's going on, everybody? This is Toy Addict 26, and welcome back to an all new episode of Toy Addicts Anonymous. On today's show, I'm very excited for the guest that we have today. Um, you can catch him on TV shows and movies, mostly known for his awesome work on the CW's iZombie show and recent Haunting of Bly Manor. But also, there's an upcoming project coming up on Netflix, and it's the Midnight Mass series, which looks very promising, and it's a horror show. So, really looking forward to that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guest today.
Hey, I'm Rahul Kohli, and I'm a toy addict.
That's right. That's awesome, man. Hey, so basically, this show it really addresses the inner geek in terms of the kind of people that we are. You, for example, you're an actor by trade, and it really doesn't set that apart from what you do as a hobby.
Right.
You're very active on social media in terms of your gaming. I know you're really passionate about gaming.
Yeah.
You do a lot of live gaming with friends and stuff like that. And of course, as you can see behind you there, you got some awesome hot toys in the curio.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So basically, I wanted to ask you a little bit about collecting. Is this something that did you begin collecting later on in your career, like once you started acting and got involved with media and different companies, or is that something that you've been passionate about since earlier years?
Oh yeah, way earlier. Acting, my profession has only kind of allowed me to continue collecting. But to be honest, no matter what job I ended up doing, I would have always had a toy budget of some sort. But yeah, I was as a kid, I was obsessed with toys. So I was an 80s baby. And I think I remember, I had my own passions, which would be Ghostbusters. So a lot of my birthday gifts revolved around getting a proton pack or getting the fire station or the Ecto one. And the figures, and I became a kind of must have them all kind of kid. And then I remember one birthday, my cousins gave me a hand-me-down garbage bag, and inside was pretty much I don't know, 50, I don't know how many it was. It was ridiculous, but it was all the Masters of the Universe toys that they were just getting rid of because they kind of aged out, and I was a few years younger than them. Yeah. So the collection just started growing and growing and growing. And at first it didn't become it didn't sort of become focused and in the sense like a collector's thing until Star Wars. So when I was about 10 or 11, I first saw Star Wars, and that led to buying the Power of the Force figures. So it started with Luke and Vader, and then it expanded to Boba Fett was the first real cool figure I remember getting, and then Han and Carbonite, and then what it turned into, and then with that that's when it started to become kind of structured in that way, rather than just a kid with a toy box. I'd have a dedicated shelf, which I remember I had my dad put up. I was 12, and each figure was neatly lined up. I kept the packaging, even though I wasn't able to keep them in the box. And I ended up, and my dad used to give me £2.50 or £2 a week, I think, pocket money. And every couple of weeks I'd have enough to grab the next one and the next one and the next one. So that's how that sort of happened. So it was really Star Wars that kind of kicked it into into gear. But I had a bunch of stuff from various kind of IPs that I loved as a kid. So Batman, and I had a lot of Batman, actually. I remember I had the animated mobile. from the animated show, which was one of my favorite things. It was so big. And then yeah, like, so it's always been there. I think while I do buy Hot Toys now, which are kind of like my adult version of the Power of the Force figures,
Yeah.
That's definitely funded by my job. I don't know if I would have been as kind of intense with that if I was doing another job. But what kind of took over from toys for me a little bit was model kits. That again, Star Wars led me to that as a kid. Was, you know, my dad, I think, bought me like a TIE Fighter, Rebel TIE Fighter kit or something like that, which I didn't like know how to kind of make at the time. It was just sort of like crappily glued together, and I think I just dipped a brush in a paint, you know, in a paint tin and just did that to it. And then I think I must have been about 24, 25. So about 10 years ago, I was auditioning a lot to kind of no success, and I needed to be available. So I was in this weird limbo where I wasn't making money, but I had enough auditions around London that I couldn't really hold down a regular job. It was too disruptive. So I kind of had a lot of free time on my hands and boredom when there wasn't an audition. And I ended up like researching using YouTube model kits again. I was like, well, let me try this. This is a little mini project that could keep me busy. And again, it started with Star Wars. So it was the fine molds kits from Japan. And from there, from YouTube, I was like, oh, you're supposed to prime it. Oh, like you can use a rattle can or you can use an airbrush. And slowly, because obviously then I was completely sort of broke, I would slowly start kind of collecting all the equipment that I need along the way, or cheaper versions of what I wanted. And then that became like that £15 kit or £20 kit would, if you do it correctly, will sustain you for a good while if you do the so that's how I kind of stayed collecting. But like hot toys are cool and all, but for me anyway, once they arrive and they're out of the packaging, they sit on a shelf. That's it. It's done.
Yeah.
There's no involvement. I don't play with them. This isn't right. You know, I used to play with the old Star Wars toys. So model kits and then Gundam are, you know, once they're on the shelf, they're dead to me, and they're something you just look at. But from buying to being able to pose it, the steps and the measures and how long it takes for that process, you really do feel like you're getting value for money.
Have you ever messed around with the Bandai action figure kits?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the action figure Bandais, only because I kind of had a separation of when it came to figures. Who's going to do it better than Hot Toys? I can't make I don't know, Carrie Fisher look as accurate as she does in a Hot Toy figure. I don't have the skills for that. And, you know, you get the real fabrics and stuff like that. So like it was already upstaged for me. There was a product there that I enjoyed looking at that existed. And to me, there's nothing a modeler can do, in my opinion, to get a Bandai kit to look like a Hot Toy. Like it just can't. Like unless, and if you can, that's probably your job. But Bandai for me, because once Disney took over the Star Wars license, the fine molds lost the rights or the licenses to make the injection mold kits, and Bandai took over. And because of that, and I still wanted to continue with that, so I went for the Bandai vehicles. So I have a backlog of every Bandai 72nd scale kit, which I'm eventually going to work my way towards, including like the perfect grade Millennium Falcon and stuff like that.
Right.
So it with vehicles, Bandai But then I also, because of one particular, it was two people. It was a combo. It was Sam Witwer, and he and I, through a mutual, got into contact because someone thought we did the same hobby. I thought he painted Star Wars model kits. He thought I painted Star Wars miniatures, and we realized that we weren't doing the same thing, but we were in the same kind of hobby.
Right.
What he did is Sam's a big miniature painter, so he paints a lot of the Star Wars Legion kits. And he put me on a YouTube channel, this guy called Sorestero, which I was watching religiously. I was like going through his entire channel while I was shooting Bly Manor, and it became like my way of falling asleep. And you know, this dude was taking you through. He's got some of the best production value. Big shout out to him. But he takes you through the entire process of what it is to paint a miniature, hand paint, and the 3 stages of contrasting. So you have your base paint, your lows and your highs, and how to do that, because it really is an art how the guys do the Warhammer and that sort of stuff. It's not just like vehicles where you can get away with just doing one tone and a wash, like a panel line.
You have to have such a steady hand for that, you know?
You absolutely do, yeah. But the great thing is, both disciplines can benefit one another. If you come from the model kit world and you go into the miniature world, you've got techniques there that, like, you know how to shoot an airbrush, obviously. So like you can do zenithal highlighting, which I don't know if you know what zenithal highlighting is. It's just it's when you first prime your figures, you hit it with your base coat primer, no biggie, and then you can hit it with a mid-tone and a lighter tone. So what you create is almost a black and white figure that mimics light hitting it. So it gives you a rough guideline as to where your shading is going to be. And an airbrush is probably the best thing to do with that, because it kind of applies paint very lightly. Anyway, so once I had started watching this guy's channel, and I was up in Vancouver, so I wasn't going to do anything. I didn't have my workshop with me. When I came home, I invested heavily in Star Wars Legion kits. So not that I played the board game, but I just started working. I don't know if you can see there. Some of them are lined up at the bottom there, but those are like the board game pieces, which I've been doing. But Gundam's now taken over. I'm doing Gundam kits like every day, pretty much.
Wow, that's a very time consuming hobby. You know, for me, aside from, you know, I have a 16-month-old, which takes up most of my time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you know, doing these videos once in a while when I have the time, and then also doing my digital illustrations, which is something that I'm very passionate about, my art, and I'm trying to, you know, focus more on that. But it's interesting how you bring up the discipline. I have never really been able to do a Gundam from scratch to end. I think it's just you have to have a lot of patience and a lot of time.
To be honest, there's a few ways to tackle a Gundam. Unfortunately, if you do it like me, it is the longest, most painful process. But for most people who build Gundams, that's the problem. If you start searching Gundam on Instagram and stuff, most of the accounts with the largest followings and the posts that you'll see, their Gundams are customs. So those individuals have taken a Gundam, sanded and removed nubs from every single part. Then they've primed it. Then they've always scribed their own panel lines to have more detail. They've added extra parts from third-party kits. Then they do, they don't just stick to one color. They have a whole degree, a spectrum of whites and grays to. That's like the most extreme time-consuming version of a Gundam. Most people don't actually do that, which I'm finding out, because people always ask me, they're like, why have you got so few Gundams on display? Why, like, you talk about it a lot, you say you're working on them. The truth is that it can take me weeks to do the small versions, because I'm individually painting each part and working on it with hyper specific detail. I can't do what other people do, which is like Lego. You buy a Gundam kit, all you need, if you really want to do a good straight build of a Gundam, you know, a high grade is a really good entry point. It doesn't have a lot of parts. You get like, I believe it's about 6 inches, maybe 7 inches. And all you need is a set of clippers and a sanding stick. And if you and that's enough. That will get you pretty much through from start to finish in the space of like an hour or two. I recently kind of indoctrinated my co-workers' children into Gundam by buying them a couple of kits and sat with them when we were filming and taught them how to do it. Much like my dad taught me how to kind of work with plastics on a runner and injection mold kits. And the kids had them done. These are 12-year-olds. They had the kit done, finished, an hour. So it's not that. It doesn't have to be like that. You can Gundam. It's as involved as you want it to be, and you can even go the next stage up, which is make a straight build. Don't paint your plastic. You don't have to. Grab a couple of Gundam markers and panel line it.
Yeah,
and that's it. And then you can remove the excess with a Q-tip and some alcohol or nail polish remover. It doesn't. You know what I mean? Like. So that's what I kind of love about that. It's why it's sort of morphed. My toy addiction has morphed into a lot, is more involved, because that's the new, bringing it back to toys. That's my grown-up version of play. You know what I mean? As an 11-year-old, as a 13-year-old, whatever, it was holding 2 ships and smashing them together.
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to get bed sheets from different colors, lay them on the floor. So I remember my mum had these terrible yellow-looking 80s bed sheets. That became tattooing. You know, I had a sleeping bag that was camouflage. That was Endor. You know, and I would play little battles. I don't do that anymore. You know, I'm 35.
Of course.
But the new play for me is sitting at this workshop here, sanding. You know.
Yeah, it's an evolution of play. You know, like for me, I kind of like look at things. I look at action figures with an artistic eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I buy an action figure not just because it looks cool, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put them in this diorama and I'm gonna put them in this kind of display. And you know, back in the day when I used to do my hardcore reviews, I used to go ham on my toy photography and all that stuff. And you know, now with limited time, I kind of just do it on my own, like in my display spaces and stuff. But it's interesting to see, you know, from your perspective, how you've evolved the collecting. And not only you collect, like you said, once you put a Hot Toys that's dead on your shelf, you're not playing with it, but you're actually finding a way to keep playing, even into your adulthood. And that's really interesting. And that's one of the things that I would like to see in the future. And I think it's an evolution that should be coming soon, is where we could buy blanks as far as action figures, and we can actually mix and match and customize them ourselves. A lot of people do that now. Customization in the sense of like, you got a figure, you primer it, or you boil it, pop the parts out, swap parts, make different characters. I've been wanting to do stuff like that. But as far as I've gone is repainting a character. So for example, a figure like this, like a Groot, which is already amazing. Yeah. But getting it and actually doing dry brushing on it and painting moss building up in certain crevices and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that I want to take my collecting to the next level with. When you speak of Hot Toys, it's a very slippery slope because they're amazing, but they're so costly. I mean, I used to own like 30 Hot Toys. I sold pretty much, I would say 80% of them just for personal needs. And now little by little, I've been picking up Hot Toys here and there, but I have to do them on a flex pay thing where I'm like paying them off in installments, since I can't like just unload 3 papers, you know, for a figure. But the hobby is very interesting. And, you know, I wanted to get your perspective in collecting in the sense of, I feel that nowadays children they're not gravitated so much towards toys and action figures as we were in, you know, back in the 80s and 70s, 90s. Why do you think that is? I feel like it's more of a digital age. Like kids are just more into gaming.
I mean, I didn't know that. That's not I'm not I'm not a parent, and I'm so disconnected from having young members of the family. Since I left the UK, I don't have any young cousins or nephews or nieces here. I just have a godson, and he's 14 months, 6. So that's a perspective I didn't know. So if I do comment on it, it's going purely of your understanding of it. Why would it be? I guess it is the digital age. I mean, look, everyone romanticizes their generation. And I try not to. I try to realize that, look, when we were kids, we still had just as many options as kids now. We did. We just had different means of accessing our media and our content. So I'm not sure content has increased, but the ease of access has. A one-stop shop, an iPad, for instance, is the ability to paint. It's the ability to creatively write. It's an encyclopedia. It's a phone. It's a video game machine, and amongst other things. Oh, and then on top of that, it's a library and a Blockbuster video. I mean, but we had all of those things. We did have them, but you just had to go to Blockbuster Video, or you had to have each thing of that was an isolated product. So for me, growing up as a kid, I still had my rental card, and I watched movies, and I had scraps of paper, and I was drawing, and I was still talking and socializing and riding my bike, but I was also playing with toys. So I don't know where toys are concerned. I do think there was. Here's something that popped into my head: advertising. Saturday morning TV. Sitting down and physically watching network TV or cable TV is dying. We know that is happening. Whereas we didn't have a choice back then. Yeah. So when we were watching Cartoon Network or we were watching our Saturday morning serials, you remember we were inundated with commercials over what the next hot product was.
Yeah.
So it was the coolest Transformer commercial. We were like, whoa! Or, they would be themed for what you were watching. Of course, if you were watching Batman animated, you would start getting the commercials for the action figures, and then that's it. You're there. You see it. It's there first thing in the morning. That's what you want. I'd assume that kind of relationship has died to a certain degree. A lot of advertising on social media is mainly towards us as adults.
Yeah,
we have the money, and the advertising for it's a lot of in-game apps that are advertising their own currencies and buy this, these cosmetic stuff. I don't know how much exposure kids are getting to the latest Spider-Man toy, or you know what I mean? So,
well, the reason I bring it up is, and I get it, you're not a parent, but if you walk into your local Target,
yeah,
give you an example, you don't really see kids in the toy aisle. Yeah. You see grown-ass men like you and I hunting down Marvel Legends or Masterverse figures or G.I. Joe Classified. I don't see kids.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see kids. And when I do see kids, they're with their father, which is usually around my age, and their father's looking for stuff. So he's enabling that behavior with the children.
Right.
But it's not one of those things where back when I was young, it was like, hey, Dad, take me to Toys R Us. Take me to Play World so I can go buy some action figures. That's what I'm saying that has changed drastically. And now I feel that the toy industry is adult driven. It's, you look at Star Wars Black Series, you see the Masterverse, you see the Master of the Universe Origins. That's all catered for this adult audience, which is us.
Yeah.
So when a company like Mattel, for example, they're about to launch this new Master of the Universe IP that's more for the younger generation, which looks cool and all, but it's like you said, there's no advertising behind it. So other than watching the cartoon, they're not going to know about the action figures unless they look up an article online or they happen to stumble across them in the store.
Yeah.
So I think that you hit the nail on the head in the sense of, I feel that that kind of separation from the kids and the interest of toys has probably come from the lack of advertising on behalf of toy manufacturers.
Yeah, and there are. I'm sure there's there's always going to be more than just one kind of root cause for a situation. One of the things that's definitely exploded in the last few years is YouTube, and kids are more interested in watching. Not just kids, but there's a culture now of watching their favorite streamer make content, reacting to funny vids. That's not merch driven. That's not a cartoon. That's, I was hanging out with, again, some co-workers, and their kids were playing, and the thing they wanted to watch was their favorite YouTuber, and they were just watching it on Apple TV. These were 6-year-olds and 10-year-olds laughing at their favorite YouTuber while they either play a game or they're reacting to funny vids or fan mail. That's what they're watching. That's it. And I know that when I was a kid and we got together at a family do and the kids separate from the adults, we either played with whoever's house it was, their toys, or we booted up the console, or we role played and were wrestling and doing shit like that. But again, so it was one of those kids was Mike Flanagan's son, and it was his birthday, and Mike was working, and a lot of the cast were working that day, and I wasn't, and Mike's wife Kate asked me to come round and just hang out because, it's going to be an empty birthday party with a couple of kids. So I went to the Disney store, not knowing if, again, disconnected, thinking that kids were like how I was when I was a kid, and I bought him a lightsaber, but I also bought the other kids lightsabers, and I bought guns for everyone, and like Nerf guns, Star Wars type Nerf guns, and things like that. And I bought them over, and they lit up, and they played and choreographed fights, and then filmed it on their mum's phone, which was cool to watch the evolution, right? So they were like, well, let's choreograph, let's do a fight and send it to dad. And so they played just like how I thought they might, just like how we would have. It's just not, I guess it's just not the go-to thing because there are so many other options right now. But they still will if you make it accessible. Kids are so creative. They love to have fun. If you give them the tools, they will figure it out and they will play, just like they have with the Gundam, just like they did with the lightsaber fighting, which was exactly what I used to do when I was a kid. It's just a little bit harder to, it's just a little bit harder to kind of focus them, but you can, as far as I'm concerned. Like my godson Apollo, I know he's growing up in the iPad age. We've seen the memes of modern kids sitting in their pajamas, hunched over an iPad, eating a bowl of Cheetos or whatever it is, or cereal, and just sitting there playing a mobile game or watching their cartoon. I'm sure Apollo will be that kid, but his godfather's going to always come down, and I don't give a shit. He's getting a giant Millennium Falcon, and we're going to play, and he's going to, I'm going to make the effort. And Lego's shifted. Lego is us.
Yeah.
You can see it with the Ultimate Collector's Editions. There's no kid. Like my 7,500 piece Millennium Falcon. That's not a kid playing that. They know what market. Who's spending $800? That's us.
Exactly.
But we got to remember, as the older generation, we got to include, bring them back, and because they will enjoy it. We just got to hold their hand and bring them with. I think I don't think we can just leave it to the market to push it. There was a time where we just rammed down our throats. I think there's more responsibility on us to kind of create a more diverse landscape for children, so that they're doing everything, including drawing on a piece of paper with some crayons.
Absolutely.
The basic stuff. I know we can just give the iPad. I know we can just do that, but it's our responsibility to.
Yeah, that's one of the struggles that I face right now in my house. I got my 8-year-old stepdaughter, which is like you said, she's like an iPad drone. She's just glued to the iPad, looking at stuff, watching all these weird videos. I mean, half of the stuff these kids watch nowadays, I wouldn't label it entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that there's some good content makers out there, but some of the stuff the kids watch is just like pouring battery acid on their heads. You know,
Sure.
it's like, and but you know, the play value is very important. And me, as a collector, you know, I'll get down. Like the other day, I picked up a Battle Cat Mega Construct set.
Yeah.
But it's a Battle Cat that actually poses out. So I tell my stepdaughter, "Hey, want to help me build this?" She starts helping me, and she gets frustrated. She goes, "You know what, Bobby? This is too complicated. Can I just work on my friend's Lego set?" But you know, at least she's into the Legos
Yeah.
herself, and I'm getting her that play value. Where
Sure.
it's like you're not going to be glued in front of a screen all day, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it's interesting. I just feel that I'm scared that, you know, 40, 50 years from now, toys is going to take like a downward spiral, because at the end of the day, and this was an interesting conversation I had with Brian Flynn from Super 7 the other day. We were talking about how the drivers for toys and the real estate, in terms of like, if you want to get a certain toy line in the toy aisle, it's considered real estate.
Yeah.
So what vendors look at, and you know, all these buyers and stuff, is it's like, what kind of media is out there? What kind of you know, exposure does this IP have
Mhm.
that will drive sales? How many figures per week am I going to sell off
Yeah.
this peg? So I feel that, you know, how far are we going to go as far as adult collectors to support, or maybe, you know, retail will eventually say, you know what, this is more of a collector driven market, and we're not going to go after children's sales anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because things are just getting more expensive every day with all this COVID crap happening. Shit, I was just looking at a pre-order yesterday, because I've been collecting the Universal monsters from NECA, which are amazing, and they just dropped the Mummy pre-order, and it was $37.99, and I'm like, holy shit! I just pre-ordered Frankenstein for $32.99. So
Yeah.
so that means they just bumped up $5.
Yeah.
Because production cost and
Yeah.
freight and all that is going up.
And as I understand it, because this is affecting the Gundam world and the injection styrene plastic molds, I think there has been a shortage in terms of factories, in terms of
Yeah.
being able to pump it out, and international shipping has taken a massive hit. So yeah, like, and then on top of that, the demand for these stuff has gone up because people are indoors and shit. Yeah, everything. Like I'm seeing kits that I used to be able to buy, like a TIE fighter for like off Amazon was $14 or some shit. It's like 50 now. Like,
Yeah.
and independent sellers, obviously scalpers, you know, they knew that, so they crank up. So it's become a very expensive kind of landscape right now, due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's an expensive hobby, and you know,
Yeah.
it's one of the things. One of the reasons I did this whole show was the idea behind it. You know, the reason I built this IP is because I'm a toy addict. I
Yeah.
mean, I collect too much shit. I mean, you collect Hot Toys and you build Gundams, right? I collect Marvel Legends, Black Series, NECA, Super 7. It's like, my excuse is like everything that, you know, has a connection with my childhood.
Yeah.
It's, I want it. I want to own
Sure.
it and collect it. Whether it's monsters IPs or comic IPs or cartoon IPs
Yeah.
that I used to watch, I want to play in that sandbox as much as I can. But it gets so expensive, and nowadays it's just getting completely out of hand. And Hot Toys is just, you know, that's the highest you can go. I mean, I've never really been. I've owned a lot of them in terms of like high end statues, like Prime One Studios and Sideshow Premium formats and stuff. I know you own some of those.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I need that play value. Not that I'm going to sit there and play like I did when I was a kid, but if I want to change the posing on this character and I want to have this character fighting this character and just change my display up, I want to have those options.
Sure.
Having a statue, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but it's literally like a museum piece. It's just going to be in that position for the rest of its life until it either gets sold or it falls and breaks, or I pass away. So
Mhm.
I just feel like I've always kind of gravitated towards that action figure model, and absolutely, Hot Toys is the next level shit. And every year they're pushing the envelope,
Yeah.
in terms of what's coming out. Like this whole Mandalorian shit. I don't know how many you own, but
All of them.
dude, every fucking time something changes in the show, they go and bring out a new
The Hot
Mando.
Toy.
Like
Yeah.
they got this new Mando now with the chrome, the real chrome looking armor, right?
Yeah,
And then
that
he's
one.
got that awesome backpack thing with Grogu and shit.
Uh-huh.
And it's like I just bought the deluxe Mando with the Grogu in the bassinet, and now you're showing me this pre-order, and I'm like, shit, it's like
Well, you gotta pace. Like I find a way of feeling like one hot toy encompasses everything. All right, like
Yeah.
There's an example here, like Luke. There are a few versions of Luke you can get. I'm okay picking the Luke that I have. Two Lukes. One was a gift, but I've got Bespin Luke, and I have, which is the double pack, which is at the bottom there, with the thing he's hanging off when his arms cut off.
Yeah, the weather vane from Cloud City.
That's it. Yeah, the weather vane, and I also have the Return of the Jedi look, which was more recent. That's my Luke pretty much done. And yes, sure, there are plenty of other versions, and I'll be tempted if they re-release the Stormtrooper version of Luke. But I try and find a way, because you have to, man. You've got to find a way of like setting up rules, and that's what I do. So a lot of my figures, one, I don't buy any sequel merch. That's it. There's a hard and fast rule. You can go around this my place. You will not find any type of sequel merch. You will not find even books, because I collect books. You won't find any book that references the sequels. They released a lightsaber book, and in the lightsaber book, it has Kylo's one, and I don't own it. That's it. It's done. That's my rule. And the same goes for the figures. And for a lot of the figures, I have decided that when it's OT, and there are multiple versions of that one character, the character I want will be the Empire look, because that's my favorite one. So by setting up these rules, it's like you create subcategories to collect, because otherwise it gets out of hand. And it's, and sure, right now I can support that habit to a certain degree within reason. But who wants to? Why would you want to do that? Like you still have, like, space is an issue, and displaying things and making sure that you don't over display as well. Otherwise it starts looking like a junkyard. And so that's a way I've managed to kind of, like, by creating my own subcategories within collecting, I can put, these like, what's the word? Limiters on what I buy. So that's how I've managed to figure out hot toys. So
you
I bought a few Mando stuff. I'm done with Mando. I got the two looks I liked them.
You choose one quintessential piece to represent that particular IP.
Oh, sorry, I just lost you for a second there.
Oh, yeah. So you choose one quintessential piece to represent that IP.
Yeah.
That's a smart
exactly.
move.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So it's like a one and done almost. So, again, with Mando, I got the two looks I love most. I have his original look before he has the full Beskar armor, and then I got his Beskar armor. I'm done. I don't need another. I don't need to take the helmet off and see Pedro. I'm good. Like, that represents everything for me. The same goes for Anakin. I've got Anakin's Revenge of the Sith look, and I got Obi-Wan's Revenge of the Sith look. I'm done. If they release Hayden in Attack of the Clones, I'm okay. I can pass. I did just buy the Sideshow Clone Wars Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Oh, the animated
I pre-ordered
ones.
that. Oh, they look so good. They look so good. I've got a few embarrassing pre-orders right now, but again, like I said, I also collect. This has become expensive. I collect anything Doom merch.
Oh shit!
If it's Doom merch, I collect it. So on my desk right now, the McFarlane figures, and also like so the Bethesda store have been releasing a very limited quantity hand painted figures, which are they look like how the collectibles you find in Eternal, and in Doom Eternal, he displays them on the wall like a collector.
Oh, okay.
So these cost 40, depending on how big they are. But again, they're super limited, and they have jumped in price on eBay. Like this guy, for instance, on eBay is in the hundreds now.
That shit looks awesome.
Yeah. So I have quite a few, and then this one's awesome. I want to show this. So this came recently, which is the Icon of Sin. And they all like,
oh wow,
yeah. And I don't pose them. I don't even know if I can. No, I'll snap it. But
yeah.
it's I set rules and parameters to stop this from getting out of hand. That's my coping mechanism. Because it's not just, like you said, it's not just I collect Hot Toys and Gundam. You know, I don't know if you won't be able to see from here, but there are every single Bandai kit Star Wars vehicle. There's every single Legion Star Wars. There is Lego kits I've got undone, not done yet, which is the Ecto 1. I've got and they're all the Ultimate Collector's Edition. So it's the Batwing. I've got the Batmobile. I have the R2D2. It is like my stuff does kind of hemorrhage out, and then on top of that, like movie props and anything that tickles my fancy from that age does get a purchase to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the rules. I stick to the rules. So I try to.
You mentioned Ghostbusters from when you were a kid.
Yeah, big one.
How do you feel about? Have you ever picked up the Blitzway Ghostbusters 1/6 scale figures? Those things look incredible, dude.
The figures I did have were from Diamond Select.
Oh yeah, those are like the Diamond Select. That they would come with pieces to build the firehouse and stuff.
I think it was Goz's. I think it was the final
The rooftop.
Yeah,
you had to buy like 40 figures to build the.
Absolutely, yeah. And you get Rick Moranis, and they had actually sent those to me because they had made some iZombie ones, and just as kind of like a sweet thing, they sent me all of the original Ghostbusters plus Liv from the show. So that was just part of the package I had received, which I can't
believe they didn't make a figure of you, dude.
It's funny, man. Like that's been like, it's gonna happen. I'm very kind of shit happens for me. I make stuff happen, and there'll be a time where I have my action figure, which is a massive dream for me. Because at one point, Funko were making a Ravi, and then that went radio silent. Then I was in. And so a lot of the time, like iZombie, I missed out on ever getting a figure. And then I booked Gears of War, which they have like massive figures. They've got like, I think McFarlane did them, and they've got some stuff on Sideshow. Didn't make a Fars.
Too.
Yeah, didn't make a Fars. So, and they didn't make a Fars Funko. So I don't know who I've pissed off, but no matter what IP I'm fucking in, like... They go, no one's going to buy that fucking brown figure. So,
and there was so much hope that you would play Ezra Bridger in the future Disney Plus series, man.
Well, that kind of blew out of control. It was a that's the problem with the internet, and I'm fucking done with them, to be honest, man. Like, you can't have good natured fun. Things go too far.
Yeah.
I think when what started off as a very kind of like silly, because I was watching Rebels and I went to the gym and I just put out a really dumb nothing tweet, go to the gym, and I come back and it's blown up and there's articles, and I was like, oh, okay, that's funny that just sort of happened while I was away for an hour from my phone. And you know, I had people calling me like, holy shit, are you fucking Ezra Bridger? And I was like, no, it's a stupid tweet. And what the great thing about it was I go online and there was no negativity. And I mean this because I wasn't filtered at the time, so I could read nasty stuff if I wanted to. It was a complete celebration of Rebels and Mando fans and people speculating. It was like the good side of Twitter, right? People were just getting hyped, and they were like, that's dope. I want to see a live action version of this character and the story and where's he been and what's happened. And it was a shame. The only downside I felt to it was I was like, oh, I wish that was true. I wish I like that would have been a great day for that to have been a real thing, but it was never a real thing. It was a dumb tweet that I wrote that just kind of spiraled. And I could tell from the response that a lot of people knew I was joking. Like I had, like millions of fucking actors have done before over time have suggested that they might be this and they're not. It's not a big fucking deal. So what starts off as this real innocent thing where people are mucking, and then so I muck around a bit more because it was funny, and they knew it was a wink, wink. This isn't anything. Don't take it seriously. In what planet would Lucasfilm or Disney ever let an actor break a story like that? That doesn't fucking happen. It's ridiculous. You know, that's not how you're going to find out. You know, and then it's all done and dusted. And now it's negative. And now I get these tweets and I get these DMs that are like, haha, fucking Ezra didn't work out for you, did it? You fucking lose. And I'm like, what? Wow. How have you managed? How has it managed to get toxic? How have you managed to be so upset with me? Because what? Boss Logic did a fucking poster with me on it? Like, grow the fuck up. Who cares? Like, I don't care. I never read for it. I don't even know if it exists. I have no connection to it. You haven't been scammed. No one's taking it away from you. If you're upset that it didn't happen, why are you attacking anyone? Just like grow the fuck up. And so any talk now, fan casting, because I get fan casted like a motherfucker. It's, you know, Doctor Who and James Bond and Reed Richards and you know, and dude, I say this, it's incredible. Okay, as a person of color, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we worshipped Michael Keaton and Christopher Reeve and shit like that, okay? And Pierce Brosnan when he was Bond, cool. And now to be 35 and to have a albeit probably a small vocal group who are like, no, I want to see you do that. Like, that's what I want. I want you in those roles. Dude, it means the world to me. I'll probably never do them. I don't care. But my God, does it like warm up my 11-year-old heart?
Yeah,
but then
absolutely.
That's been ruined for me now. So now I have this adverse reaction when someone says you should have been this person, why aren't you this person? I have this adverse reaction where I don't want to fucking talk about it. Leave me alone. Don't bring up anything to me because it's like children. It's like dealing with children who just get angry all the time and can't see the fun in anything, and everything's so damn serious. And there's so much. So I walk everything back now. I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want to talk about it. Don't fan cast me. If you do dope art, I don't even know if I want to post it anymore. You know, like. Someone did this amazing Photoshop of me as Reed Richards, and there's negativity under it. Who has done anything? So I'm not a part of it. It's an old photo of me. That person did it because they're a fan. And then there's backlash because there's like, that's not my fucking Reed Richards. This is John Krasinski. I want John. I was like, dude, why are you so upset? You really think Kevin Feige saw it and went, him? Can contact his people. We're giving him that. It doesn't work like that. Grow the fuck up. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
Sorry, you touched a sore spot there with that.
No, but it's funny that you mentioned that. I recently recorded a roundtable discussion about the Masters of the Universe Revelations.
Yeah,
man, Kevin Smith has been getting so much backlash about that show, and to be honest, I love it. I can't wait to see the continuation of it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's like, oh, it's the Tila show now, and this and that, and they're demasculating He-Man. And you know, if Mattel wanted to commit financial suicide, they would have done it another way. They would not have done it with their strongest IP contender, put it on media, and just destroy it. You know, I'm pretty sure He-Man's coming back. You know, I have my fan theory that, you know, Evil Lynn is going to actually turn a soft side and help the Masters conquer Skellige, you know? Yeah. But we got to wait and see. We got this new childish, you know, Motu IP coming now to bide our time. But we got PowerCon coming up next month, which I'm really excited to attend, and hopefully there'll be some more shedding of light of when we'll get to see the continuation of that story. But I could definitely subscribe to an ongoing thing, such as Castlevania, which lasted like 4 seasons.
Yeah.
It's just great content, great story, a lot of potential there. There was a lot of fan service in terms of them showing a lot of characters that were only made as toys, and they weren't even in the original cartoons. But it's like you said, man, everybody's like a crying baby nowadays. I think it's just everybody's so brave behind that keyboard, you know, and they just want to be so vocal. And I feel, and this is something that, you know, professionals in the industry have told me, it's sadly people that get the most views are the ones that bitch and whine and make a fuss about things. People that praise and find the good and positive of things, they don't get that viewership.
No, of course not.
So,
no, because we're not interested. We're interested in bad takes and hate. You know,
exactly.
That's why grifters like Ben Shapiro and stuff like that. That's why they get the views. That's what, because we hate watch as well. We don't hate watch good views. You know, we don't good ideas. We hate watch bad ones, and we share it amongst ourselves to either dunk or agree with. You know what I mean? Like, it obviously, you know, creating discourse does create engagement. It's such a simple fucking thing. It's such a simple concept. Masters of the Universe Revelations, I had the benefit of seeing it a month and a half before it aired. Okay.
Awesome.
And so I watched it. I'm a huge Masters of the Universe fan. I'm a massive 1987 Masters of the Universe fan, the Dolph Lundgren movie. I watched the show, and guess what? I didn't love it. Okay. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I stuck with it and I ended up enjoying it. When I realized, I was like, oh, okay, so this has happened. Oh, we're following Teela. Okay. Oh, they're expanding on the characters. Man at Arms is like disenfranchised, and he's going through some shit, and Teela's working out some stuff. And, you know, I just thought it was an interesting take.
Yeah.
I didn't love it initially because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was just expecting a direct continuation from where we picked off, and it was going to be a nostalgia-filled, easy watch. And it wasn't. It was Kevin and Mark and writers I know expanding upon something and giving us just exploring character a bit differently, adding some new depth to this universe. Okay. I knew as soon as I watched it, I went, they're going to get fucking destroyed on Twitter. This isn't such an easy thing. Teela show, this, that, woke mob. She shaved side of her head. They're ramming it down our fucking throats, LGBTQ stuff. I knew it was going to happen. I could feel it. And it's so predictable. I like, its predictability should make it easier to swallow in a way, because had I have made that show, been involved in it, the predictable, knowing I was expecting it would have meant when it came out, I knew it was going to happen because you're fucking obvious. It's low hanging fruit. Of course you're going to say these things. Yeah. But the other thing is, when I don't like something, and it's not because I'm a professional in the industry and I could be offending co-workers or potential co-workers, I am an adult who, when I don't like something, I don't watch it. If I had got to the point with Revelations where I watched it at first and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Guess what? I went through my own personal journey with it, continued to see where this played out. I didn't have this adverse reaction where I saw the first 5 minutes or saw what happened to He-Man, realized it was a Teela show, stopped watching, and then began tweeting. I was like, no, wait, hold on. Okay, that was a bit of a shock. This is interesting. Let me see where this goes. Like, at any time I wanted to, as an adult, I could stop watching and move the fuck on and watch something else and go, okay, this wasn't for me. I'm going to watch reruns of the one that I did like. There are, like, Ghostbusters, the movie with the Melissa McCarthy one. At no point did I ever vocalize that I wasn't a fan of the movie, because who fucking cares what I think? The point of the matter is, it's the only person who cares what I think is me. I didn't buy it. I watched it once at the cinema, wasn't for me, and I moved the fuck on. But that doesn't seem to be, people don't seem to be capable of this very, very easy thing of going, oh, the thing I liked, the sequel, didn't like it. Cool. Never talk about it again.
Yeah.
It has to be like, I don't know, you have to create a fucking movement. You got to harass the creators of it. You got to act like your childhood, your connection to your childhood is so fragile. It's so fragile that 30 years later, someone can affect it because they made something that's not what it was. What?
Yeah.
You can't affect my childhood. I became an actor because of Star Wars. I became an actor because of the original trilogy. It changed my fucking life. It changed my relationships. It changed where I live. It changed everything about me and how I'll be seen and what I'll do for the rest of my life. All comes down to 3 movies. Okay, cool. I don't like the sequels. Has that dissolved or etched away or taken away anything from my connection to the Star Wars trilogy? No, it's done nothing. I just ignore that. Just it's part of the menu I don't order from. I don't understand why others can't do that. Why do the sequels have to affect what you do like? Why does a new take or a reboot have to affect the franchise you loved at the beginning?
Yeah.
I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, that's a non-toy rant. But yeah, yeah.
I hear you, man. It's
Yeah.
it's just today's culture, everybody wants to be vocal, everybody wants to be heard. But one last thing that I wanted to ask you, it's something that I ask all my guests is there one piece in your collection that you would coin a shame piece, in the sense of like you paid, disgusting amounts of money for it, or you did something shameful that you probably are embarrassed to admit to obtain such item?
I don't know where to start. There's a few shameful pieces, man. Okay, so do I have shame for it? Okay, so firstly, I bought a couple of Vader's Vault lightsabers, and that's a lot for something that I don't touch very often. Excuse me, I just burped. And there's one piece that's actually a pre-order that I'm the most ashamed of. I bought the Prime 1 Doomslayer.
Oh yeah.
Which doesn't fit in my apartment. So I know dimensions wise, I cannot physically display it. I don't even know if I have room for the box to leave it. I would have to get a separate storage unit for now until I move place, which wasn't on the radar. That's not on my list of things to do right now. So I bought something knowing it doesn't fit. The deposit was $500. So I can't back out because I lose $500.
Yeah.
If I continue with it, I have to spend another $3,000. And it doesn't pose. It's just a big fat Doomslayer standing on a pinky. And every time I see the date that it might arrive, apparently it's around October, I get this sick feeling in my stomach where I'm like, why have I done that? And that $500, it's a crazy concept because it's like, just back out, lose the 500 and you don't have to pay the $3,000.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about losing your apartment space to this thing. But the 500 seems just as precious as the $3,000. They both are as precious as each other. So I'm stuck in this purgatory. I don't know what to do with it.
I hear you, man. That's the struggle.
Bad one. Yeah, that's the bad one. Like this, I mean, you talk about shame. I mean, my kitchen, for instance, I think I posted it once. If you open the cupboards where plates should be and ingredients for cooking, it's sealed Gundams and Lego kits.
Oh shit!
So when someone visits and you go, "Oh, can I? Where's the sugar?" and you just point over there. If they go to the wrong one, it's just toys, just unopened Lego.
Here's Shenron.
Yeah. Here's the bonsai tree from the Lego kit, just mixed next to my tea bags.
That's
like
awesome.
it's so weird right now. And like above is just every single Legion kit and every there is but I don't. There's shame and there's pride because when people see it, that's like I'm a big kid, so I've made Toys R Us was one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah.
My apartment looks like Toys R Us. When you walk into my kitchen, it's just sealed boxes of stuff, and you're like, and you can just look at the box and flip it and read. That's what I used to do. You sit there and you read it. I don't even know when I'll get around to opening it, but yeah, that's pretty shameful. And I did one more thing that was shameful, and it's weird because I think the word toy it's vague and it's inclusive. What's a toy, right? It depends on, it's your relationship to something depends on whether it's a toy or not.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with James Bond, and the second I played GoldenEye 64 and you press the pause menu, his watch comes into frame. And as a kid, I was like, where the fuck do I get that watch? That's a toy to me. It's role play. It's a toy. I know it's a real watch, but it's a toy to me. It's a collectible. It's the same as a statue. It's the same as a movie prop. So I was 11 or 12 when GoldenEye came out. And last week or 2 weeks ago, my producer, Trevor, the producer of Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Bly Manor and stuff, he's a watch guy and he's an enabler. So that happened. So I went and got Pierce Brosnan's.
Oh, that's nice, man.
So to me,
it's a wearable toy.
Right. No matter how I justify it to my family, where I'm like, well, it's, I've never had an expensive watch. I just wear Casios or my Apple Watch from time to time. Like I've never had like the rich boys, whatever they do with their Rolexes. However, I paint it with like, well, it's good for press and it's good for meetings and it's good for the red. It's not. It's a toy. It's a GoldenEye 64 toy, and there's no way I can ever kind of deny that it's not. But yeah, the Doomslayer Prime 1. I feel sick just thinking about it. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know.
It's kind of like, I feel your struggle. I have two, not one, two Thundercats Ultimates Thunder Tanks on pre-order.
How big are they?
Dude, they're about the size of a mini refrigerator. They're huge because they made them so that you can actually seat the entire team.
Yeah.
And you've seen the figures. They're about 7 inches tall.
Yeah.
So if you go to sideshow.com, they have a tool now where you can virtually place the item somewhere within your home to get a sense of scale. I did that with the Thunder Tank, and it was as big, maybe not all dimensions around, but it was as long as a freaking mini refrigerator. So in my head, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a coffee table and it's going to be in the middle. When my wife sees these boxes arrive, she's going to lose her shit, but I got to own it. Like for me, Thundercats is like what your Motu is. For me, it's the end all. Star Wars and Thundercats. Yeah. Mainly because Thundercats has never gotten that kind of limelight until they finally are now. Yeah. And they're getting a proper toy line and all that. But yeah, man, I hear you. It's just, we justify those purchases. And even though we, like you said, we know we don't have space, we're going to figure it out somehow. It's going to be the centerpiece. Yeah. It's going to be,
It is. It's the figuring out part. That in itself is also the play. It's I've turned down some things. I think it's Mattel. Someone reached out to me and was like, "We'd like to send you Castle Grayskull."
Oh man!
And I said no.
What?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
I flat out said no, thank you. I don't have room. I don't know. I cannot make that work. I don't know. The real estate has become just as valuable to me as the collector. Wow. as the item. So it's like I'm at this point where I'm bursting at the seams in my apartment. I think a lot of people think that, once you're on TV, you're an automatic millionaire. And while I do have disposable income and I'm able to buy the TV I want and I can buy Hot Toys, property and things like that, that's another league. And I'm not in a comfortable position where I'm ready to move. But I am at that point where I'm also bursting at the seams in terms of just life happens and you accumulate, stuff and clothes and whatever. Life just happens. So I'm at that point where I'm an item, even like, a Castle Grayskull, it will just take up maybe the only empty spot that I could use to write on a book or put my laptop on. So that's where I've got to a little bit. Like I said, the kitchen's done. If someone tried to get me ingredients, I don't know where to put the ingredients because the cupboards are used for storage.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's what it's turned into. And I'm hoping in my head, there's the idea of like, well, when I move,
get a place like this,
get a place like you've got. Yeah.
I wish.
But I always dreamt of, it's not that extravagant, but it would be nice to have an office at some point to just conduct business and stuff like that in there. And I've always wanted, since I was a kid, I want to get a Hahn and carbonite. So my office in my head is going to have the Hahn and carbonite, and these hot toys will move from the Detolf shelf from IKEA, and they will be on display amongst. So I know in my head, I'm like, when you do move your goods. So right now it's almost like I could wait and say, well, then I'll buy all that stuff when I have the space. But then in my head, I'm like, well, what if it becomes
3 times the price?
Maybe 3 times the price, yeah. Or it's so limited that and that's the thing. Like the Prime 1 Doomslayer, I do not have the room for it. I know I don't. But in my head, I'm like, that might go. That's not going to be mass produced. It might too be like
big. 7K.
Exactly, and that was my thinking behind it. I was like, they're not going to mass produce that. Sideshow aren't advertising it, and I know the guys at Sideshow. They haven't. That's not going to be part of their product line. So it's already quite difficult to get hold of. It's ridiculously priced. It's it's 3-4 grand.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that even in 12 to 18 months, maybe 2 years, that's going to be 6 grand. Like that's going to be a bit of a tricky one to get hold of. So that's where like my collecting's gone is what needs to be bought now and then stays in the box, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then eventually it will go on display. Like I had to buy the Star Destroyer Lego. I'll never build it here. There's no world in which that Star Destroyer can sit anywhere. But in my head, I had to get it when it came out to keep it at the right price point because Lego also just goes up.
Absolutely.
And at some point, the dream is you walk into the house and there in the middle is this giant, Star Destroyer that you've made out of Lego and it's just sitting there nicely. So, so that's the plan right now. So like I said, Grayskull, for instance, I'd love Castle Grayskull. It's not going to be a $5,000 purchase in 2 years if I'd said no. It's not, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I would love that. So.
I hear you, man. Like I said, for us collectors and fellow nerds, it's a constant struggle. There's constantly these pre-orders dropping and shit, Unfortunately, like I said, I do try to nitpick and cherry pick as much as I can.
Did you see the Nerf gun? The Aliens Nerf gun? That was my last pre-order, which was 2 days ago.
That shit is badass. Well, right now, what I have is the struggle. I'm contemplating whether to get 1 or 2 of the Hasbro Galactus figures.
Oh.
Dude, that shit is like the size of a toddler and then some.
Yeah.
And, to display it properly with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
It's a dream come true for Marvel collectors. I'm hoping it gets backed. It's only at like 12,000, but
dude,
they really upped the numbers.
Hasbro killing it with like the Razor Crests, the size of that.
Did you get that?
No, like again, you have to create rules. I wanted the Slave One as well. It's massive.
Yeah.
And they got their Millennium Falcon. God, I wish that I had the Millennium Falcon Hasbro Power of the Force one when it came out. To a 12, I don't know how old I was, but to a teenager, it was huge. And these ones have the old ones have nothing on the new ones.
Yeah.
And that's the only regret. I was like, God, I wish I was that age now.
I know.
And that was on my Christmas list.
But you know what? Our parents wouldn't be able to afford that shit.
No, not even in the slightest. No, it'd have been my parents couldn't afford the fucking original Millennium Falcon. I had to wait until I think it was discontinued, and it happened a broken. I think I got a damaged box one at Toys R Us, and my dad was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, now you can have that." And I was probably like 25 at now, but like, yeah, but that like some of the stuff that's out now, I just yeah. But the rule again, like I said, with collecting, you create rules. So I don't buy vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay. The rule is, if you want a vehicle, you make it. That's the rule for me. So I don't buy the Hot Toys vehicles, because I remember a buddy of mine who works at Sideshow was like, "Hey, you interested in the speeder bike? You interested in this?" And I was like, if I didn't make it and I didn't paint it myself and weather it, I don't fucking want it, because I can't make these. I'm not good enough to make those.
Right.
But I can do the vehicles to a good degree. So that was the rule I created. So if there isn't construction involved, I don't own it. So Lego and Bandai, Fine Molds, those are in. So that's how I've managed to. So if I want to have my own Slave One, I don't know what it's called now. Isn't it supposed to be Boba Fett's ship or something? I don't know what the new
it's
name
ridiculous,
is.
Man.
But you know, I'm an OT guy. So for Slave One, if I want it and I want to display it, right there is this. You know, I have the Fine Mold 72nd scale Slave One that I have to do myself. That will take me months.
Yeah.
That's how I do that. That's how I keep things under control.
Those are good rules, man. You know, for me, you know, with Star Wars, for me, it's all about ROTJ, Return of the Jedi. First movie I saw in theaters physically as a child, and you know, there's well, it's pretty much been confirmed. They're doing a 6-inch scale Rancor monster from Hasbro.
From Hasbro. I thought you meant Sideshow, because I know Sideshow.
No, I mean, they've done statues and stuff, but like, think about it. You'll never be able to. Hot Toys will never venture into that realm in terms of like, imagine a Rancor in 1/6 scale. That.
Oh yeah. But but Sideshow did one, because they did
like a PF, maybe like a statue.
Yeah, it was a statue.
But a posable like Rancor that can stand next to. Well, I mean, think about, you know,
he holds Luke, right, which is 6 inches.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's gonna be probably about 22, 24 inches tall. And then the width of it and all that shit. Yeah. But it's things like that where today all these grail pieces, like you said, that would just blow our fucking minds when we were kids. Now we can have them as adults. But then there's that struggle of compartmentalizing and creating those great rules that you come up with, you know? And in a way, talking to you today has been informative, and it's been therapeutic, because it's given me ideas of how I can kind of like get this shit under control. Because I've been buying a lot of shit lately, and my wife doesn't understand it. She's not a collector, so I don't expect her to, but she knows it makes her husband happy. At the end of the day, you know.
Right.
So it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Likewise.
It's awesome, and you know, looking forward to watching this new series on Netflix. Can't wait, man. I'm gonna tag you on the pictures of the Blitzway Ghostbusters figures I was talking about.
Oh yeah.
Those things will blow your mind, dude.
Please do.
Hopefully they're still attainable.
Yeah. If they're not, I'm actually okay with it, because I'm like, well, then cool, I couldn't get them anyway, so it's done. So
yeah, man.
You know, but yeah, I appreciate it. But thank you for having me.
All right, Rahul, it's been a pleasure, man. Stay addicted and proud, buddy. We'll talk.
I will do.
See ya. Take it easy.
See ya.